Dawn came like a whisper. The sky above the palace turned from black to deep purple to soft gold. Tay had not slept. He had spent the night sitting by his window, watching the stars and thinking about what was to come. Hana came to his room as the first light touched the towers. "It is time," she said. Her voice was soft and sad. "I wish you had not accepted." "I had to," Tay replied. "If I refused, I would have proven them right about humans." Hannah shook her head. "There are other ways to prove yourself. Ways that do not risk death. Maybe. But this is the path I chose." They walked together through the palace. The halls were empty and quiet. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. The trial took place in an ancient arena at the heart of the moon. It was built into a crater, with seats carved from white stone rising up on all sides. Thousands of Velari had gathered to watch. They sat in silence, their silver faces reflecting the morning light. At the center of the arena stood Lord Gu. Beside him were 3 doors, each made of different materials. One was made of iron, one was made of crystal, one was made of mist. Tay walked to the center and stood before the old Velari. "Kang Tay of Earth," Lord Gu announced, his voice echoing across the arena. "You have accepted the trial of sovereignty. There are 3 tests. Complete all 3, and you will be recognized as worthy. Fail any one, and you will face the consequences. Do you understand?" "I understand," Tay said. "Then let us begin." The iron door opened. Behind it was a room filled with fire and smoke. Tay could feel the heat from where he stood. "The first test is the test of body," Lord Gu said. "You must cross the chamber of flames. The fire inside burns hotter than any sun. Our warriors trained for centuries to withstand it. You have no such training, but you must cross or you will fail." Tay looked at the fire. It roared like a hungry beast. The heat made his skin tingle even from this distance. He thought about what he had learned. Velari bodies could resist extreme temperatures. Their skin was designed to protect them. Human skin was not. But then Tay noticed something. The flames moved in patterns. They rose and fell like waves. There were moments, brief moments, when certain paths were cooler than others. The Velari relied on their bodies to resist the fire. They walked straight through. But Tay could not do that. He had to use something else. He had to use his mind. He watched the patterns for a full minute. The crowd grew restless. Some laughed. Some shouted for him to give up. But Tay ignored them. He was counting, timing, planning. Then, when the moment was right, he ran. He did not run straight. He zigzagged. He jumped over low flames and ducked under high ones. He moved with the patterns, not against them. The fire roared around him, but he slipped through the gaps like water through fingers. 30 seconds later, he emerged on the other side. His clothes were singed. His skin was red. But he was alive. The crowd fell silent. Lord Gu nodded slowly. "The first test is complete. Proceed to the second." The crystal door opened. Behind it was a maze of mirrors. The walls stretched in every direction, reflecting light in endless patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "The second test is the test of mind," Lord Gu said. "This is the labyrinth of reflections. It has no exit. Every path leads back to the beginning. Every mirror shows a different reality. Our greatest thinkers have spent years trying to solve it. None have succeeded. You must find a way out, or you will wander forever." Tay stepped into the labyrinth. The door closed behind him. He walked for what felt like hours. Every path looked the same. Every mirror showed his face, but different. In some mirrors, he looked old. In others, young. In some, he was crying. In others, laughing. The reflections whispered to him, trying to confuse him, trying to make him lose hope. Tay stopped in the center of the maze. He sat down on the floor and thought. The labyrinth had no exit. That was what Lord Gu had said. Every path led back to the beginning. The Valari had tried to solve it for centuries. They had used their technology, their telepathy, their ancient wisdom. All had failed. But why? Tay thought about how the Valari approached problems. They were logical, careful. They followed rules. They respected traditions. They looked for patterns and solutions within the system. But what if the system itself was the problem? Tay stood up. He walked to the nearest mirror and looked at his reflection. Then, without hesitation, he punched it. The mirror shattered. Behind it was not another path. There was nothing. Just empty darkness. Tay smiled. He understood now. The labyrinth was designed to be unsolvable because everyone tried to solve it by its rules. They walked the paths. They studied the reflections. They searched for hidden doors. But the answer was simpler. Much simpler. Do not play the game. Tay started breaking mirrors. One after another. Each one shattered into light that faded into nothing. The crowd outside watched on screens, their mouths open in shock. No one had ever done this. No one had ever dared. After breaking 17 mirrors, Tay found something different. Behind one mirror was not darkness, but a door. A real door made of simple wood. He opened it and stepped out of the labyrinth. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some screamed in anger. Some sat in stunned silence. Tay had done what no one else had done. He had broken the puzzle by breaking the rules. Lord Gu walked forward. His ancient eyes gleamed with something new. Respect. The second test is complete. You have done what our greatest minds could not. Proceed to the final test. The door of mist opened. Behind it was nothing but swirling gray fog. Tay could not see what waited inside. The third test is the test of spirit, Lord Gu said. Inside this mist, you will face yourself. Your fears. Your doubts. Your deepest darkness. Many who enter never return. Their spirits break, and they are lost forever. Tay stepped into the mist. Inside, everything was quiet. The fog wrapped around him like a cold blanket. He could not see the ground beneath his feet or the sky above his head. He was alone in gray nothing. Then the visions came. He saw his parents, who had died when he was young. They looked at him with sad eyes. "Why did you leave us?" they asked. "Why did you go so far away?" He saw his old friends, who had called him crazy for volunteering. "You will fail," they said. "You are not special. You are not a hero. You are just a man pretending to be more." He saw himself as an old man, dying alone on an alien world, forgotten by everyone. The visions pressed against his mind. They tried to crush him. They tried to make him give up. But Tay did not give up. He stood in the center of the fog and spoke to the darkness. "Yes," he said. "I am afraid. I am always afraid. I am afraid of failing. I am afraid of being alone. I am afraid of dying far from home. But fear is not the end. Fear is the beginning. It is what you do with fear that matters." The visions swirled around him. They screamed. They clawed. They tried to tear him apart. But Tay kept speaking. "I am not special. I know that. I am just one human among billions. But I chose to be here. I chose to stand. I chose to try. And I will keep choosing, no matter how afraid I am." The fog began to clear. The visions faded. Light broke through the gray. Tay walked forward, and he emerged from the mist, whole and unbroken. The arena was silent. Then, slowly, a sound began. Clapping. First one pair of hands, then another, then hundreds, then thousands. The Valari were applauding. Lord Gu walked to Tay and placed a hand on his shoulder. "The trial is complete," the old Valari said. "Kang Tay of Earth, you have proven yourself worthy." Tay looked up at the crowd. He saw faces that had mocked him before. Now they looked at him differently. He was no longer a pet or a curiosity. He was something more. The days before the ceremony were filled with lessons. Tay learned how to bow properly. He learned how to speak to nobles of different ranks. He learned which foods to eat and which to avoid. He learned the names of important families and the history of ancient wars. But no matter how much he learned, it was never enough. The Valari nobles made that very clear. On the third day, Tay was invited to a gathering. It was supposed to be a welcome party, a chance for him to meet the great lords and ladies of the empire. But from the moment he arrived, Tay knew it was something else. The gathering took place in a garden that floated above the palace. The plants were strange and beautiful, with flowers that sang soft melodies and trees that changed color with the mood of the crowd. Hundreds of nobles stood in small groups, drinking silver wine and speaking in low voices. When Tay walked in, the conversation stopped. Every eye turned to him, and in those eyes he saw many things: curiosity, confusion, and most of all, scorn. A tall Valari man approached him. He had sharp features and cold eyes. His robes were dark blue, decorated with symbols of stars and moons. Behind him walked several other nobles, all watching with cruel smiles. "So this is the human?" the man said. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "I expected something more impressive." Tay kept his face calm. "I am Kang Tay. It is an honor to meet you." The man laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Honor? You think it is an honor for us to meet you? Little human, you do not understand your place. You are a curiosity, a pet, nothing more." The nobles behind him chuckled. Tay felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had been warned that this would happen. He had to stay calm. "I am here because your empress chose me," Tay said quietly. "I respect her decision." "Her decision?" The man's eyes flashed with something dark. "Her decision was a mistake. She has lived for 10,000 years. Sometimes, even the greatest mind can make an error. You are that error." Another noble stepped forward. She was a woman with silver eyes and a voice like ice. "The Empress is eternal, but you? You will live for what? 80 years? 100? You are a mayfly compared to us. You will age. You will weaken. You will die. And the Empress will barely notice your passing." Tay felt the weight of her words. She was right, in a way. He was mortal. He would grow old while Yuna remained unchanged. It was a truth he had not fully considered. "Perhaps," Tay said, "but I am here now, and I will do my best." The tall man snorted. "Your best? What can your best possibly mean? You come from a species that has barely left its own planet. You have no great technology, no ancient wisdom, no special powers. You are ordinary, less than ordinary. You are nothing." The words hung in the air. The crowd watched, waiting for Tay to react. They wanted him to break. They wanted him to cry or run or beg. That would prove what they believed, that humans were weak. But Tay did not break. He stood straight and looked the tall man in the eye. "You may be right," Tay said calmly. "I am nothing special. I have no great powers. I cannot live for thousands of years. But I have something that you seem to have forgotten." "And what is that?" "The will to keep going, no matter what." For a moment there was silence. Then the tall man laughed again, louder this time. "Will? That is your answer? Will is meaningless without power. Will is what the weak tell themselves to feel better about their weakness. Before Tay could respond, another voice cut through the crowd, then let him prove his will. Everyone turned. A very old Valari walked forward. His skin was almost transparent with age. His eyes glowed with ancient light. He moved slowly, but there was power in every step. "Lord Gu," the tall man said, bowing slightly. "I did not expect you to attend." Lord Gu ignored him. He walked straight to Tay and studied him with those glowing eyes. "I have seen many things in my lifetime," Lord Gu said. "I was alive when the first stars were joined. I was alive when the 17 galaxies became one. And I have learned that words mean nothing. Only actions matter." He turned to face the crowd. "This human claims to have will. The lords and ladies here claim he is worthless. There is only one way to settle this dispute: the trial of sovereignty." A gasp ran through the crowd. The tall man's face went pale. "Lord Gu," he said quickly, "surely that is too extreme. The trial has not been performed in 300 years, and it has never been passed by an outsider." "Exactly," Lord Gu said. "If the human fails, then we will know he is unworthy. He will be sent back to his planet in shame, and the marriage will be cancelled. But if he passes," the old Valari smiled slightly, "then perhaps we have underestimated his kind." The crowd murmured. Tay saw fear on some faces and excitement on others. He did not know what this trial was, but he understood that it was dangerous. "What is the trial of sovereignty?" he asked. Lord Yu turned to him. "It is a test. A challenge designed to prove that someone is worthy to stand at the highest levels of our empire. It has 3 parts. The first tests the body. The second tests the mind. The third tests the spirit. Many have attempted it. Few have survived." "Survived?" Tay repeated. "Yes, the trial can kill. It is not a game." Tay felt cold. He had expected mockery. He had expected insults. He had not expected a death sentence. But then he thought about what he had said. He had claimed that humans had the will to keep going. If he refused the trial now, he would prove them right. He would prove that humans were all talk and no action. He thought about Earth, about all the people who were counting on this alliance, about the children who might never receive Valari medicine if he failed, about the future that hung in the balance. "I accept," Tay said. The crowd went silent. Even Lord Yu looked surprised. "You understand that you might die?" "Yes. And you still accept?" Tay nodded. "I made a promise. To myself, to my people, to the Empress. I will not break it." Lord Yu studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Perhaps there is something to humans after all. The trial will begin tomorrow at dawn. Prepare yourself, kind Tay of Earth. You will need every bit of that will you spoke of." The old Valari walked away. The crowd parted before him like water before a ship. Tay stood alone in the floating garden. The nobles watched him with new eyes. Some still showed scorn, but others showed something different: doubt, wonder, and maybe, just maybe, a tiny bit of respect. The trial awaited, and Tay had no idea if he would survive. The palace was not on a planet. It was on a moon. But this moon was not like any moon Tay had ever seen. It was covered in white stone and golden light. Towers rose into the dark sky like fingers reaching for the stars. Gardens floated in the air, held up by some technology Tay could not understand. Waterfalls fell upward. Birds with crystal wings flew in slow circles. Tay walked through the halls with Ha beside him. His footsteps echoed on the smooth floor. Everywhere he looked, there was beauty. Paintings that moved. Statues that breathed. Windows that showed different worlds depending on how you looked at them. This is the Imperial Palace, Hana said. The seat of power for the unified galaxies. Tay stopped walking. Unified galaxies? Yes, our empire spans 17 galaxies. All of them answer to the one who sits on the eternal throne. Tay felt his mouth go dry. He had known the Valari were powerful, but 17 galaxies? That was beyond anything he had imagined. Earth was one small planet in one small solar system in one average galaxy, and the Valari ruled 17 of them. Why would someone from such a great empire want to marry a human? Tay asked. Hana did not answer. She only smiled and continued walking. They passed through many rooms. Each one was grander than the last. Tay saw Valari nobles watching him from the corners. Some looked curious, some looked confused, some looked angry. He was a stranger here, an outsider, a creature from a young and primitive world. Finally, they reached a great door. It was made of silver and gold, covered in symbols that glowed with soft light. 2 guards stood on either side. They were tall and strong, wearing armor that looked like frozen starlight. Beyond this door, Hana said, you will meet your bride. Tay took a deep breath. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He had faced difficult situations before. He had talked to angry politicians. He had negotiated with hostile nations, but this was different. This was his future. The doors opened slowly. Light poured out. Tay stepped inside. The room was enormous. The ceiling was so high that clouds drifted through it. The floor was made of glass, and beneath it, Tay could see stars. Thousands of Valari stood along the walls, all dressed in fine clothes. They watched him with silent eyes. At the far end of the room, there was a throne. It was made of pure light, constantly shifting and changing. And on that throne sat a woman. She was the most beautiful being Tay had ever seen. Her hair was white like fresh snow. Her skin glowed with soft silver. Her eyes were the color of deep space, filled with stars. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of woven moonlight. A crown of floating crystals circled her head. Tay stopped breathing. Kang Tay of Earth, a voice announced. You stand before Yuna, Supreme Empress of the Unified Galaxies, Keeper of the Eternal Flame, Voice of the 17 Stars. Tay felt his legs weaken. He was not marrying a noble. He was not marrying a princess. He was marrying the queen, the ruler of everything. Yuna stood from her throne. She walked down the steps slowly, gracefully. Every step she took sent ripples of light across the floor. The crowd watched in complete silence. She stopped in front of Tay. She was taller than him by half a head. She looked down at him with those endless eyes. You are smaller than I expected, she said. Tay did not know what to say. His mind was empty. His tongue was frozen. Yuna tilted her head. Can you not speak? Tay swallowed hard. I did not know. Know what? Who you were. They told me you were someone of high status. They did not tell me you were everything. Yuna's lips curved into a small smile. Does it frighten you? Tay thought about the question. Yes, he was frightened, but he was also something else. He was amazed. He was honored, and deep down, he was curious. A little, he admitted, but I gave my word. I signed the contract. I will not run away. Yuna studied him for a long moment. Her eyes seemed to look right through him, seeing things he could not hide. Finally, she nodded. Good. I chose you because I believed you would not run. I have watched your kind, Kang Tay. I have watched humanity since you first reached beyond your world. You are young. You are loud. You are often foolish. But there is something in you that I admire. What is that? Tay asked. You do not give up. Other species, when they face impossible odds, they accept defeat. They surrender. They die quietly. But humans, you fight. You struggle. You find ways where there are no ways. You survive. Tay felt a strange warmth in his chest. Pride. Not personal pride, but pride for his people. For all the humans who had ever pushed forward against the darkness. I chose you specifically, Yuna continued. Not because you are a warrior. Not because you are a genius. But because you are steady. You are calm. You think before you act. And you keep your promises. How do you know that? I watched you. For 2 years, I watched you. I saw how you handled the first contact negotiations. I saw how you stayed calm when others panicked. I saw how you treated the Valari diplomats with respect, even when your own people were afraid. You never lied. You never cheated. You did your duty. Tay did not know what to say. He had never imagined that anyone was watching him. He had thought he was invisible. Just another small worker in a big machine. The marriage between us will not be easy, Yuna said. My people will not accept you easily. Many of them believe humans are too primitive to stand beside me. They will test you. They will mock you. They will try to make you fail. I understand. Do you, truly? Tay met her eyes. He forced himself to stand straight. I have been underestimated my whole life. I am used to it. Something flickered in Yuna's eyes. Interest? Respect? Tay could not tell. Then perhaps you will surprise them, she said. As I hope you will surprise me. She turned and walked back to her throne. The crowd remained silent. Tay stood alone in the center of the great room, surrounded by thousands of watching eyes. He was a small human from a small planet. And he had just agreed to marry the ruler of 17 galaxies. Tay did not know if he was brave or foolish. Maybe both, but he had made his choice. He would not turn back. The ceremony would take place in 7 days. Until then, he would prepare. He would learn. He would watch and listen and understand. And somehow, against all odds, he would prove that humanity was worthy of standing among the stars. Kante sat alone in the small gray room. The walls were made of metal. The air smelled clean but cold. He looked at the paper in front of him. It was not really paper. It was some kind of alien material that felt like silk and glass at the same time. The words on it were in English, but the meaning was still hard to believe. Marriage contract. It said at the top. Tay was 32 years old. He worked for the Earth Diplomatic Corps. He was not important. He was not famous. He was just a translator who knew 7 languages and had a calm voice. That was all. He never expected to be here, on a space station floating somewhere between Mars and Jupiter, reading a marriage contract with an alien species. The aliens had arrived 3 years ago. They called themselves the Valari. They looked almost human, but not quite. Their skin had a soft silver glow. Their eyes were larger and deeper, like pools of dark water. They were beautiful in a way that made humans feel strange. Not afraid, but aware. Aware that these beings were something more. The Valari did not come to Earth with weapons. They came with offers. Trade. Technology. Medicine that could cure diseases humans had fought for centuries. But they wanted something in return. They wanted connection. They wanted trust. And the best way to build trust, they said, was through union. Marriage. Tay remembered the day when his supervisor called him into the office. Director Park was a serious woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent her whole life working for peace between nations. Now she was working for peace between worlds. We need someone, she had said. Someone who can represent humanity. Someone calm, patient, open-minded. Tay had nodded slowly. For what mission? Marriage? He almost laughed. But Director Park did not laugh. She explained everything. The Valari wanted a human to marry one of their own. It would be a symbol. A bridge between 2 species. The human would live among the Valari, learn their ways, and show them that humans were worthy of partnership. Why me? Tay had asked. Because you have no family ties that would suffer. Because you speak well. Because you do not panic. And because... She paused. You volunteered for the first contact team. You said you would give anything for humanity's future. Did you mean it? He had meant it. He still meant it. That was why he was here now, staring at the contract. The door opened behind him. A Valari woman stepped inside. She was tall and graceful. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders like water. She wore a simple white robe. Her name was Hannah. She was the one who had been assigned to help him understand the process. You have read the contract, Hannah said. It was not a question. Yes, Tay replied. But I have questions. Of course. Who is my bride? Hannah tilted her head slightly. A woman of high status. That is all I can say. High status. Like a noble? Something like that. Tay frowned. Why can't you tell me more? Because the identity of your bride is protected until the ceremony. It is our tradition. The union must be based on trust, not calculation. Tay found this strange, but he did not argue. He had learned that the Valari had many traditions that seemed odd to humans. They valued mystery. They believed that knowing too much too soon could poison a relationship. What if we do not get along? Tay asked. Hannah smiled softly. Then you will learn to. That is the point of marriage, is it not? To grow together. To become something neither of you could be alone. Tay could not argue with that. He looked at the contract again. It promised him safety. It promised him respect. It promised him a place in Valari society. In return, he would give his loyalty, his presence, and his effort to understand. What happens if I refuse? He asked quietly. Hannah's smile faded. Then we will find someone else. And Earth will wait longer for our friendship. Perhaps much longer. The weight of those words pressed down on Tay. He was not just deciding for himself. He was deciding for billions of people. For children who might grow up with Valari medicine. For scientists who might learn Valari technology. For a future where humans were not alone in the universe. He picked up the pen. It was not really a pen. It was a small silver stick that responded to his touch. He pressed it against the line at the bottom of the contract. His signature appeared in glowing blue letters. It is done, Hannah said. You are now promised. Tay felt his heart beat faster. When do I meet her? Soon. You will travel to our home system. The journey will take 3 weeks. During that time, you will learn our language, our customs, and our history. You will be prepared. Prepared for what? Hannah looked at him with those deep, dark eyes. For everything. The next 3 weeks were a blur. Tay studied every day. He learned the Valari language, which was musical and flowing. He learned their history, which stretched back millions of years. He learned their laws, their art, their music. He learned that they had united thousands of worlds under a single government. He learned that they valued harmony above all else, but he did not learn who his bride was. Every time he asked, the answer was the same. You will know when the time comes. Tay tried not to worry. He told himself that it did not matter. He was doing this for humanity, not for himself. Even if his bride was difficult, even if she was cold, even if she was strange, he would do his duty. The ship carried him deeper into space. Stars passed like distant candles. Planets appeared and disappeared. And finally, after 21 days, they arrived. The Valari home system had 12 planets. 3 of them were connected by massive bridges of light and metal. Tay stared through the window of his room. He had never seen anything so beautiful. We are here, Hannah said from behind him. Your new home. Tay took a deep breath. He did not know what waited for him. He did not know who his bride was. He did not know if he would succeed or fail, but he had made a bargain. And Kang Tae was a man who kept his word. The wedding took place 3 days after the trial. The entire palace moon was decorated with lights that floated in the air like captured stars. Music played from instruments that had no players. Flowers from 1,000 worlds bloomed along every path. Tae stood at the end of a great hall, wearing robes of white and gold. They were the ceremonial clothes of a royal consort, woven from material that felt like moonlight against his skin. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. Yuna walked through them. She was dressed in silver and starlight. Her gown flowed behind her like a river of dreams. Her crown of floating crystal sparkled with every color Tae had ever seen, and many he had not. She was beautiful beyond words, and Tae felt his breath catch in his throat. She walked slowly down the aisle, her eyes fixed on him. All around them, millions of Velari watched. The ceremony was being broadcast across 17 galaxies. Every world in the Empire was seeing this moment. Yuna stopped in front of Tae. For a moment, they just looked at each other. "You surprised me," she said quietly, so only he could hear. "I surprised myself," Tae admitted. She smiled. It was a real smile, not the careful mask she wore for her subjects. "When I chose you, I believed you had potential. I did not expect you to prove it so quickly. The trial was difficult. I know. I watched every moment." Her eyes softened. "You were magnificent." Before Tae could respond, the ceremony began. Lord Gu stood before them, speaking ancient words in a language older than human civilization. Vows were exchanged. Promises were made. Rings of light formed around their fingers, binding them together. When it was done, Yuna turned to face the crowd. She raised her hand, and the hall fell silent. "My people," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the 17 galaxies. "For 10,000 years, I have ruled alone. I have guided our empire through wars and peace, through darkness and light. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched stars being born and dying. And through all of it, I have searched for something." She paused. The silence was complete. "I searched for a partner. Not someone who would bow to me. Not someone who would fear me. Not someone who saw me only as a symbol. I searched for someone who would stand beside me as an equal. Someone who would challenge me. Someone who would grow with me. Someone with fire in their spirit." She turned and looked at Tae. "I found that person in the most unexpected place. On a small planet, in a young species, in a man who had nothing but his word and his will. Kang Tae of Earth has proven himself worthy, not through power or ancient blood. He has proven himself through choice, through courage, through the simple act of refusing to give up." She took his hand and raised it high. "I present to you Kang Tae, royal consort of the unified galaxies. From this day forward, his voice carries the weight of my own. His word is my word. His honor is my honor. Any who disrespect him, disrespect the eternal throne itself." The hall erupted in cheers. Not all of them were happy cheers. Tae could see some nobles clapping with stiff faces and angry eyes. They did not accept him. They might never accept him, but it did not matter. The Empress had spoken, and her word was law. In the weeks that followed, Tae learned what it meant to be royal consort. It was not a position of pure ceremony. Yuna gave him real duties. She asked for his opinions on matters of state. She brought him to council meetings where decisions were made about wars and treaties and the fate of billions. The other council members were wary at first. They spoke over him. They ignored his suggestions. They treated him like a decoration. But Tae was patient. He listened. He learned. And slowly, he began to contribute. The first time he spoke up was during a discussion about a rebellion on a distant world. The Valari generals wanted to crush it with overwhelming force. They argued about strategies in weapon systems and troop movements. Tay raised his hand. "May I speak?" He asked. The generals looked at him with surprise and some annoyance. But Yuna nodded. "Have you asked them why they are rebelling?" Tay asked. Silence. "We know why," one general said impatiently. "They are angry about resource distribution." "Then, why not give them better distribution?" "Because it would set a bad example. Other worlds might rebel to get special treatment." Tay shook his head. "Or other worlds might see that the Empire listens to their needs. That rebellion is not necessary because their voices are heard. You can crush this rebellion with weapons. But then another will rise. And another. The only way to end rebellion forever is to remove the reason for it." The generals argued. Some called his idea naive. Some called it weak. But others listened. And in the end, a compromise was reached. The rebellion was offered negotiation before force. It worked. The rebels surrendered peacefully. The crisis ended without blood. After that, the council began to listen to Tay more carefully. He was not a military genius. He was not a master of technology. But he understood something the Valari often forgot. He understood people. Years passed. Tay grew older while Yuna remained unchanged. His hair turned gray. His face developed lines. But his mind stayed sharp and his spirit stayed strong. Valari medicine extended his life far beyond normal human limits. At 150 years old, he still walked the halls of the palace, still sat at council meetings, still stood beside his wife at ceremonies. Earth had changed too. The alliance with the Valari brought technology and medicine that transformed human civilization. Diseases that had killed millions were cured overnight. Clean energy replaced fossil fuels. Humans began to spread to other planets, building colonies among the stars. And through it all, Tay was their protector. Whenever anyone threatened Earth or spoke against humanity, they faced the full weight of the eternal throne. One day, Tay stood on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The flowers were singing their soft songs. The birds with crystal wings flew in lazy circles. Yuna came to stand beside him. "You are thinking again," she said. "I am remembering," Tay replied. "I was remembering the day I signed the contract. I was so afraid. I had no idea what I was getting into. Do you regret it?" Tay looked at her. After all these years, she was still the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. And now she was also the person he knew better than anyone in all the galaxies. "Not for one moment," he said. "Not even when they mocked me. Not even when I faced the trial. Not even when I thought I might die." Yuna moved closer to him. "You changed everything, you know. Not just for yourself. For your species. For my empire. You showed everyone that worth is not measured by power or age or blood. It is measured by heart. I just did what felt right. That is exactly why you are special." She placed her hand over his. "Humans have a gift. You live such short lives, but you burn so brightly. You feel so deeply. You love so fiercely. In my 10,000 years, I had forgotten what that felt like. You reminded me." They stood together, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky far away. On a little blue planet, children looked up at those same stars and dreamed of the future. They told stories about Kante, the human who married the queen of everything. Some said he was a hero. Some said he was just lucky. But all of them knew one thing. He was one of them. Just an ordinary person who chose to be extraordinary. And if he could do it, then maybe they could too. Tay smiled, feeling the warmth of Yuna's hand in his. The universe was vast and strange and full of wonders. But the greatest wonder of all was the simplest. One, love. connection, the courage to take a chance. That was what made humans special. Not their technology or their power or their knowledge. Just their stubborn, beautiful, endlessly surprising hearts. And somewhere out there, among the 17 galaxies and the countless stars, humanity was just getting started.